What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Welcome back to another press conference reaction. Yes, can't dwell on the past too much for too long because we're already looking forward to Sunday, a trip to Wembley. It's Brighton and Hove Albion versus Manchester United in the FA Cup semi-final. And Erik ten Hag has been speaking to the assembled media, not at Carrington, I believe it's in London, somewhere in London, because Manchester United have travelled straight from Seville to London for this FA Cup semi-final. He's been speaking to the media ahead of the big FA Cup semi-final, but also reflecting on what happened, what on earth happened last night in the Europa League. So some really interesting questions and some really interesting responses from the United manager. And again, it wasn't so much of an inquest as I thought it was going to be. I thought the journalists were going to come with some very hard-hitting and heavy questions, but honestly, what is there to be asked that hasn't already been asked this season, really? I think the best question was maybe the first question, which was from Simon Stone, which we'll get to, and that was just like, why? And as I'm sitting through this, I'm just, and Ten Hag, as all he can do is sitting there talking about, we'll bounce back. It's been shown this season that this group of players can bounce back and recover from these kind of defeats. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's true, and they have, but why does this keep happening? And why does this, like, it's so, even 24 hours on, less than 24 hours on, about 20 hours on, I don't know why I'm getting specific on the maths, but less than a day on, it's still really deflating, isn't it? Really, really deflating and really, and it is one defeat, and we've got the players certainly, hopefully, don't feel like we do, or certainly I do, and they're focused on the weekend and the game's gone and all that kind of stuff. But it is very just sort of, that's kind of the feeling at the moment, isn't it? So we move on, certainly. As V Cobra says, one of our members there, big up everyone, we move on. Indeed, that's all we can do is move on and look at the game at Wembley at the weekend, which I'm worried about. I'm worried about the game at Wembley at the weekend. I can't lie. I mean, after witnessing that performance in the Europa League last night, after seeing what we have seen in big away games, and I know it's on neutral territory, Brighton aren't at home, but certainly it's a big away game. I'm concerned. I'm nervous. I think what we do have going for us is that we've already been to Wembley this season, and we've already got a victory at Wembley and a complete performance at Wembley, a good performance at Wembley against a good side like Newcastle, but still we're missing players. And talk about a contrast. When we last were at Wembley, we were coming off the back of another big Europa League game. And that Europa League game was also against Spanish opposition, wasn't it? But that game was against Barcelona. And we were excellent. We were fantastic. We won it and we deserved to win it. And we beat the team at the top of La Liga table. We were like, we'll take on anyone. And went to Wembley, was fantastic, won a trophy. Complete opposite. Complete and total opposite settings now. We've just had a big Europa League game. The parallels are there. Big Europa League game against a Spanish opposition, but we lost catastrophically. And now we're facing another good side at Wembley. And it's like... So Ten Hag was asked about all of this. So the first question, as I mentioned, was from Simon Stone from the BBC. And to be honest, it was probably the best question of the press conference. He spoke about, look, you've had these similar performances against the likes of Newcastle, against the likes of Liverpool, against the likes of Manchester City, Aston Villa, and you've come out and Brentford earlier on in the season, and you've come out and you've said, the same things, that the mentality wasn't good enough, the desire, the running, the intensity wasn't good enough. But I mean, it's the $1 million question. Why does this keep happening? Why has this happened so many times this season? What's going wrong? Why is this something that keeps happening over and over and over again? Because if it happens once, you go, bad day at the office. Or like, for instance, the Brentford result earlier on in the season, you go, but Ten Hag's got to sniff these people out. He's got to figure these people out. And And we did react after that because we went without losing for such a long period of time. But it has happened over and over and over again this season. So why does it keep happening? And Ten Hag says, we have to acknowledge it's the truth. We have to do better. I have to teach the players. They have to do better in such circumstances and situations. The demands are on this team because we are United. We have to deal with it and we have to improve it. Which again is what else is he going to say? You know, that is obviously what there's nothing else he can say about it. But certainly, there is. I mean, I really do hope, obviously, that we get a positive result on Sunday. But I really do hope that last night, if it wasn't anyway, and I have faith and I believe in our manager that he would have seen this once was too many times this season, let alone 6 or 7 times, how many times it's happened, and. Last night, I would have hoped, if it hadn't already, I hope that would have been the straw that broke the camel's back when it came to some of these players of just, you know what, enough is enough. You know, certain players have been there for a long time. Certain players haven't been there for as long as others. But certain people just can't hack it. Some people just are not good enough. Maybe that's David De Gea too. De Gea, Maguire, Jadon Sancho, and others that played last night. Even if you want to get really, really critical of the other players, that's fine. But they're just not it. They just cannot do it. And if you're at Manchester United, when you're talking about not only consistency in terms of league performances, but going to the latter stages of tournaments, pressure moments in tournaments, pressure moments in the league, and if you're collapsing in the manner that we have collapsed several times this season, I don't know. Because that is not... You cannot do that often. You cannot do that anyway, but you cannot do it that often. How often we have done it this season. And my only worry is not to be a complete, Debbie Downer about this, but my worry is that we've still got games in the league this season that I think could be similar to what we saw last night. I mean, I'm really worried about not only Brighton at the weekend, but then having to go to the Amex. People laugh at Spurs. I'm worried about going there because it's an away game in the Premier League. I'm worried about facing Aston Villa or Old Trafford because they're up for it at the moment. They're sniffing around European football. They can't believe it. And us, you don't know if they're going to show up. And maybe that's why it still is so deflating, is because we laugh and joke about like, the hopium, smoking the hopium or drinking the copium and all this kind of stuff. But it really is the hope that gets you, isn't it? Because we had hoped that after seeing it for like the 5th time this season against Newcastle, that you're like, finally, we this is the thing. We bounce back. You bounce back, and then something else happens. And I understand seasons are up and down like that, but for United, it just feels like this season isn't. The highs are so high at the moment, and the lows are so low as well. This season for United, they really are. Like we don't lose games like 1-0 this season. We don't lose games go, we were really unlucky, we just got edged out of it. We lose like 4-0. We lose 6-3. We lose 7-0. We lose 5-2 on aggregate. It's just like devastating, pathetic performances. And it hurts. It really, really hurts. And it's baffling because one week they can be fantastic and beat excellent sides at home, but when the pressure's on away from home, they can't do it. And again, that's very, very frustrating. Kristen says we need some good news around the takeover. Well, that's going to be picking up real steam this time next week, isn't it? The results, the final bids are going to be coming in this time next week. So a big 7 days, honestly, for Manchester United, really, when it comes to the future. And that's going to be the backdrop of those bids next week is going to be really interesting as well, isn't it? Because the backdrop is either going out of 2 competitions, followed by final bids and maybe a bit of hope in the future. I mean, there's a lot of different circumstances this time next week that's going to be really interesting. Because as I mentioned, you could have a situation where we're through to an FA Cup final, and then next week there's a real positive news about a takeover bid, and we're like, actually, it's not all that bad. We're top 4 hopefully, and we've won a trophy this season. We're in a final, and here's hoping this takeover is going to happen. Or the real bad thing could be we're out of the Europa League and we're out of the FA Cup, and now the Glazers have decided that they're going to stay and all this kind of stuff. It's just, It's a massive 7 days, a real big 7 days for United, isn't it? In terms of the season and just the general future as well of United. So obviously we'll be covering it all. So there'll be morning views, news shows, live streams, reactions and all that kind of stuff. So certainly it's going to be a big week for Manchester United, no doubt about that. Be sure to smash the like on the like button as well. Hope you're all having a good Friday afternoon, morning, evening. Maybe it's even Saturday where you're watching from. Let me know where you're watching from, as always, as well. Next question, as I mentioned after why, was obviously it was a disappointing game last night. The mental side has taken a massive blow. Is the game on Sunday, is this almost the perfect game to bounce back from? Are you considering refreshing the team? And Ten Hag says, of course, I always think about refreshing the team. I have a squad. I know when we've had bad defeats and performances, we bounce back. We can do it again. We have the experience. And this was the one where when Ten Hag was saying this, I don't want this to be perceived like I'm going on Ten Hag, because I'm not. I have full faith in Ten Hag, and frankly, I think he's, in some circumstances, overachieved this season. And someone asked me this morning during Matchday Reloaded, do we need to win the FA Cup for it to be a successful season? And we don't. We don't need to win the FA Cup for it to be a successful season. Prior to this season beginning, we were saying if we get in the top 4, it could be a bit of a miracle. So if the season ended tomorrow and we were in the top 4 and we've got a trophy, that's a successful season. That's a season I didn't think we were going to have. So no doubt about it, and I think we are making steps in the right direction. But when he was responding and reacting to this, and he was saying, we can bounce back, we've done it before this season, in my mind, I was just thinking, and I know he'll be thinking like this because from the way that he talks and the way other people talk about him, is, as I said, when you collapse like we collapsed last night, that's 1 time too many, but we've already done it so many times this season. And my only concern is, when it happens once, like against Brentford, you do bounce back because it's humiliating. It's a shock to the system. Everyone's like, wow, where did that come from? That's ridiculous. We've got to put this right, have some pride, and never let it happen again. My concern is that it keeps happening, because my worry is if it keeps happening so many times, eventually you don't really kind of bounce back. And frankly, when we had it against Liverpool, we didn't bounce back for a while. What was it, 3 games without a win in the Premier League, something like that? Granted, there were extenuating circumstances, like against Southampton, there was red cards and all that kind of stuff. But when it's constant, when you're constantly being bang, 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 we'll come back, we'll bounce back. I mean, you can let me know in the chat. Are you confident that we're going to bounce back on Sunday? I don't know, because it's going to be tough. It's going to be really, really difficult. As Ten Hag said, we have done it this season, and there are players in that team to do it. I think that the fact that Maguire is suspended, honestly, is a positive for us. And Luke Shaw and Lindelof, I'm more confident with them at centre-back than I was with Lindelof and Maguire. Not because Lindelof played badly, but because Maguire was horrific. I would hope that David De Gea can't have as bad of a game as he had in Seville last night, but anything's possible. I would hope just the general team could show a modicum of more intensity than they showed last night, because even if they go up 1%, that's a million times better than what they showed yesterday evening. So we have to bounce back, honestly. And again, they've got to have some pride in their performances, and they've got to have some pride in what they do, because they still have the opportunity to stop City winning a treble this season, which, let's face it, you might want to ignore it, but it's very much on. I think City will win the league. I don't want them to, but I think they will. They're so strong at the moment. Champions League, they are the favourites. And FA Cup, I think that's the concerning thing, isn't it? Is that we have beaten Manchester City this season. We beat them at Old Trafford. But the concerning thing kind of is with the way that City are playing at the moment, and some of the performances we've displayed in the last couple of months, you know, it's tough. It's tough, and maybe I'm being very pessimistic and very, very down today, but man, like I said, the highs have been high this season, but the lows have been very, very low, and it's difficult to come back from that. As far as refreshing the team, like I said, I think he will make some changes. He'll have to when it comes to Maguire. I think Rashford will start. Question mark about Martial, who's kind of limping around too. So, I don't know. Very, very deflating, isn't it? Very deflating. Next question was, what do you feel last night taught you about your squad and summer plans? Where is it all at? I think this was kind of in reaction to a lot of the reports that were coming out today. The general sentiment from a lot of people. I saw Jamie Jackson wrote a piece for The Guardian. I think maybe Samuel Luckhurst wrote something for the Manchester Evening News. Definitely saw something in the Telegraph, in the Mirror as well. That was essentially saying there's going to be a mass clear out at Manchester United. Now, the names varied from paper to paper and outlet to outlet. The likes of Harry Maguire, Jadon Sancho, who else was in that? I did see... Actually, I might as well get them up while we're live now. This is the beauty of being live, is you can kind of react to these things in real time. Let's have a look at some of the names that were put out there, because I want to make sure that I get this as right as I possibly can. Here we go. This was the Jamie Jackson piece saying that Jadon Sancho, Anthony Martial, Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, Scott McTominay and Fred are heading a list of at least 15 whose futures are under threat at Manchester United. Ten Hag is considering allowing Donny van der Beek, Anthony Elanga, Dean Henderson and Brandon Williams to leave United. Alex Telles, Hannibal Mejbri, Eric Bailly almost certain to depart United, and Phil Jones and Axel Tuanzebe are definitely leaving because their contracts are expiring. So that's the general sentiment today, is that a lot of people are going to be going in the summer, and rightfully so. And not just because they need to, in terms of they're not good enough, and there just needs to be an overhaul, a refreshing. That's a continuation of last summer, because lots of people left, and the people that brought in have been a massive, massive positive for United. But what did last night tell Ten Hag about that and the summer plans? Where is that all at the moment? And Ten Hag said, at this moment, I don't think about the summer. In the back of my mind, obviously it's there, but I think about improving this team, these players. We have all of our focus on the process. I know this group of players can do better. They already proved it so many times this season. We have steps to go. We have a lot of games to play and a lot of occasions to prove it. And then, again, that's why last night is also so frustrating, is they have proved that they can do it this season, but they've also proved that they can't at the same time. Or certain players have proved that they can't, shall we say. But there's certain players that have proved that they can't. We've known that for a while. And we've seen moments like that. And maybe that's why. And it's kind of turned into a bit of a psychotherapy process here, guys. But maybe that's why it's so disappointing, is we have seen incidents or games, matches like that last night so many times over the last, 5 or 6 years? Those disappointing nights where we go into it confident because we should be winning or we should be doing better, and then we come out of it and we go, what was that? Like, they didn't even try. They did nothing. And it's frustrating because the chess pieces change, but the performances are largely the same. But this season, maybe this is why it's more frustrating, is this season, as Ten Hag said, we have seen those moments where we go, yeah, that's Manchester United. That's the United I remember. And I don't mean just necessarily winning matches, because you can't win every match. And we shouldn't be greedy or naive enough to think that we're going to win every single match, or we're entitled to win every single football match. As a United fan, I know, certainly myself, I grew up with United winning everything. But it's not necessarily about that. It's in terms of performance level, in terms of, again, grit, aggression, intensity. We've seen them do that this season. But we've also seen other players during those performances look incredibly out of place as well. And maybe that's why it's disappointing last night, is we have seen that very performance a million times. And this feeling of, we've felt that so often. And it's like when someone keeps letting you down, isn't it? You know, when does it become you to actually go, you know what, enough's enough. Like, I'm not buying into this anymore. I'm not buying into this player anymore, you know. And I think there would hopefully be big changes in the summer. I think there would be signings in the summer, irrespective of what's going on with the takeover process. I hope that is still a looming situation, and hopefully that can get resolved. I think at this point, given how late it is in the season and how summer transfer plans would already begin, because you're starting to see the reports and you're starting to see, you know, the agents talking to the outlets and all that kind of stuff. We're already at the point, really, aren't we, where these summer transfer plans are starting to get formed and people are having conversations. You've got Alexis McAllister at Brighton who's saying, you know, his agent is basically saying to Fabrizio Romano he's 100% leaving. And because we're so close to all of this, it's inevitable that how long this takeover process is taking, it's going to have a knock-on effect in the summer. There's no way it doesn't. It has to. It is going to. So the only thing United can do is act as a business as usual mentality and just, again, hope that it's concluded by then. But it will have a knock-on effect. It will. There's no doubt about it. But honestly, if it takes a delayed transfer window or a transfer window that's less than ideal, but the end result, as I've said a million times, is that the Glazers are out, then I don't particularly care too much. I've said, even if it meant United completely collapsing in terms of, a Chelsea level this season and finishing in the bottom half and that the Glazers left, if that's what it took, then that's what it took. So I can forego a transfer window as long as they go, honestly. And here's hoping that they do. But at this point, who knows? We're so ground down with this takeover process. Honestly, who knows as well. But I do think, irrespective of that, I do think there will be sweeping changes in the summer. I think it's fair to assume that Maguire will leave. I think that in terms of other players that will leave in the summer, obviously we know that those likes of Phil Jones, Twansibi will leave, Tellez will leave, Brandon Williams will leave. I wouldn't be shocked. I think it's going to be really difficult to get rid of Jadon Sancho in the summer, honestly, because of how big his contract is. But I wouldn't be shocked if Ten Hag was thinking, you know what, maybe this is just not worth it. It's not. I was absolutely... Words cannot describe how frustrated I was with his performance yesterday and how disappointed I was with Jadon Sancho's performance yesterday. I think David De Gea, whilst he's in the middle of contract negotiations, I think he's lost a ton of leverage after his performance yesterday. And I know one bad game does not make a bad player, and I do believe that. But at the same time, I think that whilst the club are clearly trying to get his wage down, and there's only so low he wants it to go, I think they would point to what happened yesterday and say, mate, 200k, you taking the piss. Like, that's still, I believe, the highest paid goalkeeper in the Premier League. That's a problem. Like, that is an issue. So I think there will be sweeping overhaul when it comes to multiple positions in the summer, in addition to, clearly we're looking for a number 9, a world-class number 9, a big hitting number 9. Clearly we're looking for midfield reinforcements as well. So I do think it will get better in the summer. But it was never going to be totally resolved in one season anyway. I think, frankly, the progress we've made this season, I don't think people have assumed it would be this fast. And again, maybe that's why it's disappointing too, because our standards and expectations have been raised quite high this season from really nothing into something after winning something, and seeing what was ahead and looking at this Europa League competition and the teams that were remaining in it saying, hey, we've got a really good opportunity here. And our draws had been pretty good. And now, again, it's the familiar feeling from the last few years, isn't it? Cab says, we got a lot of weak players. They have no fighting spirit, except these players: Martinez, Varane, Malacia, Anthony Dos Santos, Ericsson, Casemiro, Sabitzer. The rest, they're all mentally weak. Chris says, whether the De Gea's, I think it means De Gea's, like it or not, we can't let him leave on a free. Last summer about crippled us, so many players leaving for a free. We don't have a spare 200 million just sitting there. Well, Chris, I would think when it comes to that, David De Gea is an interesting one, because at this stage, he would have to go. If he was to leave United, it would have to be for a free. Manchester United cannot, in good faith, extend his contract, trigger that extension for the same wage that he's on at the moment. They cannot do that. Not only financially, but it's not value for money. So if he's going to go, it's going to have to be on a free. The whole point of selling these players is to raise funds. There is some money there, but the whole point of selling these players is to raise funds. And again, maybe the takeover situation will be resolved by then. But you do recoup a fair amount of money considering the wage that he's currently on. I mean, his wage did get docked for not being in the Champions League this season, but I still believe it's something around the range of, like, was it 350? So when you've got a guy that's not on 350k a week, it's not as if you just then suddenly, no money gets freed up. It does if he were to go. And as far as we can't afford to let him go on a free, well, if he's going to go, that's the circumstances that he's going to go. No one's going to pay any money for someone that's got, as of today, it's nearly the end of April, like 6 weeks left in their contract. So, if he's to go, then he's going to go on a free. And frankly, and this is what you have to consider too, if he were to go on a free, and I would also say this to him as well, if he's turning down 200k a week, which again, these are reports, they're rumours. If he was turning down 200k a week, I would say to him, do you realistically think if you were to leave United at the end of your contract, anywhere else you would go, any other club, you would get 200k? Because I think all of us, even people like me who have praised David De Gea, know that nowhere else he would get 200k. He just wouldn't. If he went back to Spain, he would get nowhere near that. If he went to any other club in the Premier League, he would not get that money. He just would not. You know, maybe if he went to, I don't even know. I don't know where else he would get that. I don't even think, clubs like PSG would give him 200k a week. I really don't. So, I think that, I would still, I think, I kind of think United are a bit crazy to give that amount in the first place, honestly. It's kind of crazy, yeah. Chris comes back, says, Pogba left for a free, cost us 80 million, paid in millions, walked for free. These horrific decisions cripple clubs. I mean, that's the whole point. From a business perspective, when you sign players, you have to assume that they're going to leave for free. You do. And certainly from an accounting perspective, that's what you do. That's what Derby got in trouble for. Because they weren't putting their assets as being let go for zero. If he's, again, so you're saying, I think it's kind of, I think it's somewhat of a everyone's allowed their opinion, obviously, but I think it's somewhat of a backward logic to say we have to keep someone that maybe in the eyes of the manager isn't entirely what he's looking for because we should be able to sell him. I think that's, I don't understand that. I don't get that. Next question was, because we have talked about a press conference, said that when you struggled against Brentford earlier on the season, you did the running. Realistically, on Sunday, you did the running with the squad. Realistically, going into Sunday, what can you do with the squad? And he said, quote, I don't run with them today. I don't have the time. We didn't match the standards. The expectation on the team and the manager is higher. Sunday, we have to do better. In terms of team news, Anthony Martial came off. Luke Shaw was limping too. What does it look like in terms of the squad situation and players for Sunday? Ten Hag said, it's looking quite good, but it's so short, so I can't really give a comment. We haven't trained until now. After training, I will know more. So, honestly, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if Anthony Martial doesn't start on Sunday. He was limping around. Luke Shaw, I think, will. I saw that he was saying to people after the game that he felt fine and he was okay. So Luke Shaw has to start, to be honest, even if he's not completely 100% fit. Otherwise, who else is it going to be? It's going to be Lindelof and Shaw. As far as Martial, I don't know. if Martial's limping around, I really don't know. So we'll have to wait and see when it comes to that one. If he doesn't, then once again, you're probably looking at Rashford starting up front. But actually, I don't know, because again, I thought Sancho's performance was so bad that maybe it's Weghorst up front. I don't know. I really don't know. But I hope Martial is available. But at the same time, we still do want him to be available for the rest of the season as well. So that's the team news. Basically, he doesn't know because it's so soon. Obviously, the one person we know isn't going to be playing is Maguire. He's suspended. Another person we know is going to be coming back is Bruno Fernandes after he was suspended in the Europa League. This was an interesting question put to Ten Hag. Defeats this season have been by more than one goal. The majority of them, I think it's something like out of 9 defeats, something like that. The majority of them have been by more than one goal, basically suggesting that when we concede, the team collapses. How do you go about fixing that? Is that a mentality issue? And Ten Hag said, we can't deny it. We have to acknowledge it. Yeah, it's a mental issue. We must keep going. You have to carry on. This team can bounce back between games. What they can't do is bounce back during the game. That's what we have to improve. And I'm really glad he said that. I am, because before he said it, that's what I was thinking. That for all of this talk about we will bounce back, we've proved that we can bounce back this season when we've had bad defeats. I'm sitting there, I sound like Charlie Nichols, I'm sitting there thinking, but I was watching him and I was thinking, why can't we do that during the actual match? Why does it have to be in the next game? Why does it have to be, we'll bounce back in the next game because we're playing at home? against someone in the Premier League, and we'll get it right then. Why don't we get it right in the game? And it was something that I said about after in my fan view yesterday, after that Sevilla defeat, was that if that was Manchester City, if Man City were playing against Sevilla and they wouldn't even be in the Europa League, but let's say they're playing Sevilla and that happened to them. Edison makes a mistake or John Stones makes a mistake and they have a mess up and Sevilla go 1-0 up. As a neutral, as someone that's sitting there and hates Manchester City, I'm not watching it going, well, that's them screwed. They'll have to bounce back at the next game at the Etihad. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking, well, they'll get a goal in a minute. They'll be fine. They'll bounce back from it. No problem. It happens. As a United fan, the moment we conceded, if we honestly, in our heart of hearts, let's be honest, when we conceded, we went game over. That's it. We're not coming back. I remember when we played Newcastle at St. James's, we were so on the edge that when they did score, we went game over, done. We're not coming back. And that's, and even it's almost, I'd be saying that if I was Ten Hag to some of these players. You think that's acceptable? That I have to go up to the media every single time and say, oh yeah, they're going to bounce back in the next game. It's not as if that De Gea and Maguire mistake happened in the 85th minute and there wasn't enough time. It happened in like the opening stages of the match. You had like 85 minutes. You had like the entirety of the game to come back. Look at Sevilla in the first leg. They were dead and buried. They were out of the game. They got a bit lucky, sure. But they scored 2 goals later on. The game isn't over if you concede earlier on. But for us, it is. For us, it's, well, we'll get them next time. No next time. It's the game still played. And again, why does it have to be bouncing back in the next game? Why can't it be during the 90 minutes? Why is it just head down, here we go again, it's happening again? And again, that is a massive mental problem for a lot of the players. That it's just, it's over. And to the point, like I was saying before, when the second half started and we conceded a corner after, 20, 30 seconds, you knew they were going to score from it. It's not even one of those things, it's easy to say that after the fact. You knew. Because we've seen that this season as well. I tell you what, it's half-time. Yeah, we're a goal down and we're fortunate to only be a goal down, but we got to bounce back now, second half. Bounce back, using that phrase again, we've got to bounce back now, second half. No, it's the same or it's worse. And they can score after 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, a couple of minutes. And we go, right, game over, that's it. Game over, we've lost again. We'll get them next time. Even then, when you're 2-0 down. Could you imagine the lack of success under Sir Alex Ferguson if the team had the mentality of going 1-0 down or 2-0 down or even 3-0 down at some times and going, well, next time, we'll get them next time. Next game, that's when we'll come back. No. How many times with Sir Alex was it 1-0 down? Doesn't matter. We'll come back. 2-0 down. With 10 minutes to go. Doesn't matter. We'll come back. We won a European Cup off it. Of being 1-0 down and scoring 2 in the dying seconds of it and winning the Champions League. It's our history is based on that. But now it's 1-0 down. Well, then we'll just take 6. we'll let it be 4 or 5-0. But next time, it's like someone cheating on Weight Watchers. That's what it is. Diet starts tomorrow. We'll bounce back next time. Have some discipline. It's just... These games. Red Baron with the super chat. Appreciate the contribution. Says, we need technical players to play modern high-line football. We were ruined by Ollie's counter-attacking tactics. Sal, De Gea, Wan-Bissaka and Maguire. We certainly cannot play a high line. I think you're right. I think we've that was proven earlier on in the season that we just kind of ran away from the high line, didn't we? And we're still not, and I think that's worth pointing out too, we're still not playing the football that Ten Hag ideally would want United to be playing. After that defeat against Brentford, he had to adapt. He had to change things. He had to go a bit more direct and play a bit deeper because that's what the players were used to. And over time, gradually, we've got a little bit closer to what he wants, but we're still miles off it in terms of his complete picture. And any team that's got, or a coach that's got half a brain knows if you put pressure on United, particularly away from home, you'll get the ball back and they'll collapse. Because that's a thing this season too. Press the United side, you'll get the ball, no problem. They'll give it to you, they'll crumble. And you remember when Arsenal, for like a decade. Went through that period of time where it was Arsenal was soft. You remember Troy Deeney used to come out after the game and say, Arsenal was soft. When you get into a fight with them there, they don't care. When the going gets tough, you'll get them. You'll get them. That's what United are at the moment. We're soft. And we've proven it this season. There's still a real soft underbelly with that team. And it's fine to do it at home. And it's fine to beat the big teams at home because you should. Because you've got the crowd on your side. Because it's loud. And it's one thing to do it when you've got 70+ thousand people supporting you. But when you've got, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people, opposition fans hurling abuse at you and getting on at you and whistling at you and whatever, that's when you really prove how quality you are. And it's very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. Next question to Ten Hag was, obviously there's a lot of work to do in the summer. Do you have faith in the structure of the club? And Ten Hag said, oh yes, I have, but that's not why we're here. We're here to prepare for Brighton, to get the best out of this group of players. This was an odd question, a really odd question about Harry Maguire. And it was Harry Maguire. He's been criticised by some last night. And no joke, when he said that, this journalist said criticised by some. I went, some? I went, who was praising him coming out of last night? Opposition fans. Oh, the Sevilla fans. Is the club captain. What's impressed you about him this season? And when he said that question, I thought, what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to, one, get some groundswell of support for Maguire, which is just bizarre after a bad performance? Or two, is it you're trying to get Ten Hag to praise the player, because he's obviously going to praise Harry Maguire in that situation. And then there's a reaction on social media. Look at Ten Hag backing Harry Maguire once again. Look at him. He's clueless. He's daft. He's stupid. Look at him. He doesn't know what he's doing. I thought you are laying a trap there. I was going to swear then, and I'm trying not to. You knob. I was thinking, you knob. I can't believe you've done that. And obviously then he praised him. He has an important role. He's the captain. He leads. He communicates with the manager. He's an example on the training pitch. He leads. And I just thought, I was sitting in my chair going like this, because you know what the reaction is going to be now on social media with that. He leads. He's an example on the training pitch. What example? What example did he set in Seville last night? An example of how to pass the ball to a Sevilla player and score a goal. An example of how to injure Martial. He injured Martial at a corner, which they scored. Double whammy. Not only did they score, he injured a player. And the worst thing is, it's not even the first time he's done that at Manchester United. They need to talk about, the super kick to Paul Pogba's head or whatever. He's got track record. It's like Bill Goldberg in WWE. He's got a streak going. Like, what's there, 3 or 4 not out? I can't believe it. He's going to be main eventing SummerSlam in Detroit. And when he did that question, I just thought, you are laying a trap here. Or you're trying to get this groundswell of support for Maguire, which again is very odd to do coming out of last night, very strange. This is I don't think many people, honestly, when I was watching that audibly out loud, I'm shouting at my screen. I'm going, come on, this is ridiculous. The next question was, is it fair to say that some players are playing for their future at United? And to be fair, I think Ten Hag answered this very well. He said, I think we are always playing for the future. Every game is a test. Every season is a test. You have to earn the right to wear the shirt. Same for me as a manager. During the season, we've made huge progress. We have to step up. Sunday is the next opportunity. It's a great opportunity. A better event you can't imagine. We take that. A lot of great games to go. We have to prove it. And the response to the next question. The response to the next question was, I loved it. So a couple of questions ago, the guy asked the question about Maguire, saying he was criticised by some last night, right? That's obviously Ten Hag's going to praise him. And the final question was put to Ten Hag, saying, it's a strange thing to say, but do some not realise the expectation that's there when they play for Manchester United? And Ten Hag said, I think they understand. If not, then it's getting the time to be aware of it. But yeah, the flip side is you have to prove it every game. And I literally did a double take. I went, prove it every single game? Well, tell that to the captain, because the captain is going on international duty and saying he doesn't have to prove himself. I don't need to prove myself. I've been a captain for United for 3 years. I've played under Gareth Southgate. Like, that's an achievement. I've played for Gareth Southgate. Yeah, Jordan Pickford's still in goal for England at the moment, whilst an English goalkeeper's top of the league. So that's no achievement. I've played for England for so much time. I don't need to prove myself. Your manager is in a press conference before an FA Cup semi-final saying you have to prove yourself every single game. There is a conflict there. That's a difference. That is a difference. Tell the captain. At the same time, the captain's a leader on the training pitch. Your leader on the training pitch, the one that's communicating with the manager, is saying, I don't need to prove myself. And yet the manager's coming out and saying, oh, you need to prove yourself every single game, because that's what you have to do, because that's an elite mentality. Not even an elite mentality. That's just a general sportsman mentality, particularly at Manchester United. You always have to prove yourself every single game. As Ten Hag's saying, he's got to prove himself every single game, because there's always going to be doubters out there. And how do you prove yourself? By putting in performances, by winning things, winning matches, winning trophies. I mean, honestly. So he says the flip side is you have to prove it every single game. Every game you start from zero, you have to acknowledge and be aware of it. You need to prepare every time to battle and fight. Obviously, that should be a given. That should be a granted. But apparently it's not. Apparently it's not. I just couldn't believe it when he said that, because it's true. I absolutely agree with what Ten Hag is saying. But the problem is there are people in that squad that don't have that mentality. They don't need to prove it. They've already signed the contract for United. They already play. They've already achieved so much, which is nothing, by the way. You know, but I'm already a United player. It's done. That's just the beginning. You know, don't get me wrong, it takes a lot and you have to achieve a lot to get to Manchester United, granted. But that's only when your career starts from there. Because if you don't achieve anything, it's only going to be going down. You know, it should be going up. And as Ten Hag says, even as a manager, you've got to prove yourself every single game. As a player, you've got to prove yourself every single game. Casemiro left Real Madrid. They'd have been happy to keep him, by the way. He left to prove himself. He's got nothing to prove. Nothing to prove. Rafael Varane left Real Madrid because he felt he had to prove himself in a different league. He's won everything. Everything. Yeah, World Cups, Champions League, La Ligas. Casemiro's the same. How many of them? He's got 5, 6. I don't even know how many he's got at the moment. It's a ridiculous number. He feels he has to prove himself. But Harry Maguire is saying, I don't need to prove myself. And yet the manager is saying in the press conference, you have to prove yourself every single game. Honestly, steam was coming out of my ear, more so than when Virgin Media effed up with the internet this morning. And it's been going on all day as well. And then you type it in on Virgin Media, that looks like there's a signal fault in your area. No shit, there's a signal fault in the area. It's a disgrace. The UV community is outraged. It's been a day. I'm telling you. It's been a day. Super chat from Red Baron says, even if Ten Hag's nemesis played for this team, Ten Hag would not throw him under the bus. Ten Hag is a manager that keeps everything indoors. Absolutely, of course. And I don't think anyone expected Ten Hag to come out and, you know, Harry Maguire's taken some criticism. Tell me about him. Oh, he's effing rubbish, blah, blah, blah. Captain, bullshit. He was never going to say that. And he's going to obviously protect his players. But I'd be really, really surprised if he was a United player. Come the beginning of next season. I really think his days are numbered. The only reason why that wouldn't happen, why he wouldn't leave, honestly, is if he just completely digs his heels in and goes, I'm not going anywhere. Because how long does he have left on his contract? When did he signed in 2018? Was it 2018? I think it was 2018. Oh no, 2019. Excuse me. I think it was 2019, wasn't it? Yeah. And how long was his contract then? Was it 5 years? So maybe he's got a year left. And that's probably why he's said he's got nothing to prove. Because probably Gareth's told him, you know, it doesn't matter, mate. You're gonna play. You're gonna play regardless. I don't give a shit if you don't play at Man United. It's fine. You're playing. You're in my team. I've got nothing to prove because I'm playing internationally anyway. But eventually, enough will become enough. And he'll want to play, I guess, games. And whatever. So, look, there you go. That's the press conference reaction, guys. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. We're 10 likes away from 100. We're not even at 100 yet. I know everyone's a bit down. I know I am. And I know I've been moaning for 45 minutes. I do feel better, though, now. I feel more refreshed. I feel like I've got a lot off my chest. And I feel like I vented a lot. This was 2025. Man. Jeez. How long was that contract? 6 years. I don't even have like a 6 years. I'd be shocked too, KG. 5 + 1. 6 with an option for 1. Oh. Man. I don't even know what to say to that. Maybe I'll just play the GIF again. I mean, I don't. Yeah. Well, there you go. There is a there is a mega vlog coming later on this evening. I believe. Call me crazy. I believe it's coming out at 7 o'clock or just thereafter. So you can see the hijinks, the travels of Flex and Josh whilst they were out there in Seville for the game yesterday. Match preview will be coming tomorrow as well, of course. Previewing the game at Wembley against Brighton. Sunday, of course, we'll have match view, fan views, all that kind of stuff. So here's hoping, guys. I think if we just, let's just put a lot out. Let's just put a lot out into the universe, yeah? Come on. Yeah, we can do this. We can do this. Maybe it's going to take a little bit longer. Maybe I'll feel better tomorrow. I'm still hurting today, but we can do it. Manifest it, as Steffi Jenks says. Come on. We can do this. Anyway, look, I'm out of there. Have a great Friday, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.